Hey everybody, this is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. So, the U.S. government has responded, seeking a motion for summary judgment in Harry's visa application inquiry case with the Heritage Foundation. You're hearing it first here on TRG, so if you don't mind, please click the like button so this can reach a wider audience. It truly does help out the channel. Anyhow, let's go through this because if you're American, you're going to be pissed. I know I am. So the U.S. government wants this case dismissed, obviously, and in this last submission, they have provided everything they think is needed in order to get a summary judgment for this case to be dropped. So in the actual main document, in what they reason as good enough to say, you know what, we don't need to go to trial. This is information that we're providing you. It's warranted to drop the case. This is what we believe, and this is why you should agree to dropping it. Keep in mind that this case is really about just getting a simple answer. Did Prince Harry lie on his questionnaire when they asked about his drug use? That's all this initial case was supposed to be. But listen to how the government goes ahead and starts spinning to protect Harry's privacy. But before I get started, let me just preface, I'm not a legal expert, so please do not take this as any kind of legal advice. I'm just reading through these documents and giving my first impression by using my ability to read and critical thinking skills. These are all just opinions, which I'm entitled to under the First Amendment of our U.S. Constitution. So to kick this off, they say, plaintiffs, the Heritage Foundation, and Mike Howell, collectively plaintiffs, filed a three-part Freedom of Information Act request with defendant, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, that broadly sought records related to Henry Charles Albert David, a British national otherwise known as Prince Harry or the Duke of Sussex. See Heritage Requests. Not satisfied with the department's response, plaintiffs brought the lawsuit seeking full disclosure of the records. So just a quick refresher, on March 8, 2023, the Heritage Foundation submitted an FOIA request to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for various records regarding Prince Harry's status in the United States. The request sought three categories of records, as you can see here, all records within Prince Harry's alien registration file, including but not limited to any applications for immigration benefits and any forms that are listed here on this list pertaining to Prince Harry within 12 different databases, and all records relating to any requests for waiver by Prince Harry. And they hone in highlighting the fact that Prince Harry did not give authorization for the release of these documents. So the U.S. government is saying that they made a good faith effort to conduct a search for the requested records using methods which can be reasonably expected to produce information requested. Now, I'm going to have to disagree with that based off of what I read from the Heritage Foundation and the trouble that they had in getting a response in the first place, the time it took for them to respond back to the Heritage Foundation with basically no information and making the Heritage Foundation go back and resubmit, I think 2 weeks after or a week after, with additional information, just shows that it was sort of lazy on the Department of Homeland Security side. They can say that they made a good faith effort. I mean, who's going to question that? You can't, because there's no witnesses saying that they actually did take the time to do the work. Everything seems so reactive. So let's all remember that the government used Glomar as the reason why they cannot give this information on Prince Harry, because they want to protect his privacy. And what this Glomar or glomerization is really the government agency loophole to get out of turning over information that they think special privacy considerations should be factored, especially with this case with Prince Harry. So traditionally, a Glomar is supposed to be used specifically, an FOIA request seeking records which would indicate that a particular political figure, prominent businessman, perhaps celebrity, or even just an ordinary citizen has been the subject of a law enforcement investigation, may require an agency to flatly refuse to confirm or deny whether such records exist. In this case, they're doing this with Harry. So my question is he the subject of an investigation by law enforcement? Last time I checked, nobody was looking at Prince Harry, even though he openly stated that he was doing drugs. So, rules for thee, but not for me type situation. And that's what we're really questioning here. We want to know if he lied on his application. That's all. So in this response and the argument that they're giving, they reveal a detail that they hadn't disclosed before. So it says here, Border Protection, or CBP, searched its TECS system for entry and exit records regarding Prince Harry using the names and date of birth that the requester submitted, as well as passport numbers found during the search. In all the documentation, they never mentioned that they found passport numbers for Harry. So how many passports does Prince Harry have? I know we've talked about this, and some think that he still has his diplomatic passport, some say that he has his British passport. But what if he has both? Just putting that out there. I think the government slipped here because in all the other documentation, they just said that they had logs of him exiting and entering the country, but they never mentioned anything about the passport. Just to make sure everybody sees what I'm talking about, in the July 5th letter that was sent to the Heritage Foundation, this is what they said they found. Entry and exit records. To find entry and exit records concerning the Duke of Sussex, we searched the TECS system for those records. TECS is an overreaching law enforcement information collection, analysis, and sharing environment that securely links telecommunications devices and personal computers to a central system and database. It goes on to say, we found two types of entry and exit records by searching TECS, person encounter lists and person encounter detail records. A person encounter list is a list that indicates when a person has entered or exited the United States through U.S. federal air, land, and sea inspection sites and may include information regarding multiple encounters. A person encounter detail record includes additional travel, manifests, and carrier information for any individual encounter with a person. And nowhere do they mention passport numbers, plural. I know on my passport, there's only one passport number that's listed there. Now, many of you may think, well, maybe it's because there's a string of numbers on the passport. Well, if you look at your license plate, it's the same thing. You have a string of numbers. You don't say license plate numbers, you say license plate number. At this point, the U.S. government has lied to the American people so much that we should be questioning everything, and this is no exception. So when we go back to this, I want to know, how many passports does Prince Harry have? Has he used multiple passports, of that being one, a diplomatic passport, in order to get special benefits and privileges afforded to him in this country? You see what I'm saying? And is this a possibility of him being protected due to this kind of immunity that's afforded? The response then continues into emphasizing the Glomar response, saying that acknowledging whether the records exist would reveal Prince Harry's visa or immigration status, which would amount to an unwarranted invasion of Prince Harry's privacy. So essentially, Americans are not allowed to know whether or not people who come from different countries that are on U.S. soil are here legally or not, because we don't want to invade their privacy, even though they've openly admitted to drug use, promoting drug use, as well as interfering with our constitutional rights. Oh, and let's not forget that Harry is in full support of this domestic terror group, the Sussex Squad, who have been documented threatening, harassing, doxing people online, with the real consequence of jeopardizing people's physical safety. As an American, it should be our right to know the status of somebody who is not a citizen of our country on whether or not they're here legally, to prevent any type of harm to the American people. That's what Homeland Security's job is supposed to do. So F. Harry's privacy, he is a public figure who is influencing people in America. It is our right to know this information. So I think the Heritage Foundation needs to do a little bit better in their response back, because they have until October of this year to reply back before a decision is made on whether or not this is going to get dismissed. I think it's now time for them to raise the fact that Harry had been involved in trying to interfere with our Constitution and taking away our civil rights. I think it's important for them to also list the fact that he has been supporting this domestic terror organization called the Sussex Squad. And I think it's important to tie those together because if he is under the influence of drugs and doing this in this country to affect and harm citizens, that is a serious problem. The U.S. government is not budging on their decision here. They don't think that it is of the American public's interest to know this information because they don't see the threat that Harry is posing. And attacking our Constitution should be good enough reason for the public to know whether or not this foreign national here in the U.S. has the right to be here. I think it's interesting that the Department of Homeland Security's mission is to ensure public safety against threats, foreign and domestic, when it does appear that they're more interested in protecting the aliens, aka Prince Harry, and applying immigration law now, indicating that CPP's mission is to secure the border of the United States, and records regarding Prince Harry's interactions with Border Protection would be generated under that mission. Look, I understand giving immigration rights. I mean, this country is founded on its immigrants, but let's just put it out there. Harry is not the traditional standard immigrant. We don't see aliens trying to influence and interfere with our government policies. Look, Harry didn't flee a country from persecution in coming to America to pursue the American dream of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He came here to capitalize, take advantage, and exploit while doing drugs. So then the government goes on to say that they lawfully withheld identified records regarding Prince Harry by saying beyond the myriad personally identifiable information that the Person-Centric Identity Services Person-Centric Query System and TECS records contain, the records are particularly sensitive because releasing them, even in part, would reveal Prince Harry's status in the United States, which Prince Harry has not disclosed. So the burning question that I have is, are we not allowed to know whether or not people are here legally or illegally? Adding more detail around this, saying specifically the records would reveal the types of documents that Prince Harry used to travel to the United States, his admission status, and any immigration or non-immigration benefits that he may have sought. That would be something if Harry did ask for the SNAP, aka food stamps, or Medicare. These are the benefits that they're talking about, paid by the taxpayer. Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Harry asked for it because he is equally as grifty as Meghan. So in other words, they don't want you to know whether or not Harry has a non-immigrant visa for a temporary stay or an immigrant visa for permanent residence. Or as a third scenario, here is an international protected persons with a diplomatic passport. So then it goes on to say that the records plaintiffs seek, meaning the Heritage Foundation, include a significant amount of private, personally identifiable information regarding beneficiaries and their family members, such as names, aliases, physical and mailing addresses, unique identifying numbers, responses to questions on immigration benefit forms, and copies of government-issued identification, receipt notices, requests for evidence, proofs of benefit extended, and benefit-specific eligibility information about the benefit requester. Further, the records may include unique identifying numbers issued by the State Department or other federal agencies, arrival and departure information, immigration history, family relationships, personal background information, records regarding organization memberships or affiliations, health information, travel history, education and employment history, professional accreditation information, and financial information. So now, when the rules fit to Harry's advantage, they're treating Harry just like everyone else. So what the U.S. government here is doing, they're muddying the waters by throwing in all these other details, saying that, giving his status away as well as other personally identifiable information would be an invasion of his privacy. But they're missing the whole point here. The whole point is finding out whether or not he lied on his application about the drug use. So I agree. I don't think the public needs to know about his phone number, his address, as well as other personally identifiable information that's not pertinent to this application. That I think is going a little too far, and it's, in my opinion, none of our business. So what I don't understand is why can't they redact some of this information to make it publicly available, because it is in the interest of the American public. I would have to agree with what the government says next, in saying even though he is a public figure, Prince Harry still maintains a privacy interest in these types of records and in his immigration or visa status generally. Even if public figures may have a diminished expectation of privacy, they do not surrender their privacy interests entirely. Were this not the case, a requester could go on a fishing expedition for government records for any celebrity at all. Many of us agree with that. We're not asking for all this in-depth information. I mean, at least the Heritage Foundation, I don't think, should be asking for it. It's not pertinent to what we really need to know is, did he lie and did the government give him special privilege to come into this country, even though he has admitted to doing drugs? Now, what I don't agree with the government is their conclusion to protect Prince Harry's privacy and given the identification of no overriding public interests, defend improperly withheld person-centric identity services, person-centric query system, and TECS records in full. I disagree with that. There is an overriding public interest, and this is where I think Heritage Foundation needs to push back harder. I'm an American citizen, I'm a taxpayer, and I'm saying I am interested in knowing this information because of what I've explained earlier in this video. We have a Prince of the UK on U.S. soil attacking our constitutional rights and putting American citizens' physical safety in danger. And if he's under the influence of drugs and this is against the law, then the law needs to be applied and be deported immediately. So this next part in defending using this Glomar loophole in protecting Prince Harry's privacy interests in his immigration status. And it says, in Glomar cases, courts may grant summary judgment on the basis of agency affidavits that contain reasonable specificity of detail rather than mere conclusory statements, and if they are not called into question by contradictory evidence in the record or by evidence of agency bad faith. Further down, drilling home the message, it says, as explained in section above, the department must withhold any information regarding Prince Harry's visa or immigration status under the personal privacy exemptions because Prince Harry has a privacy interest in that information. For that same reason, all department components issued a Glomar response to Part 3 of plaintiff's request, which sought all records relating to any request for waiver by Prince Harry pursuant to Section 212D3 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. So just so everybody can understand what they're referencing here in Section 3, this is what they said. So in accordance to this specific waiver under the Nationality Act, the Heritage Foundation had to provide one or more of the following that was requested by Homeland Security. And that would be either a written authorization from Prince Harry, proof that they are deceased, or a clear demonstration that the public interest in disclosure outweighs the personal privacy interests of the individual and that significant public benefit would result from the disclosure of the requested records. So they came to determine that the request did not satisfy any of the above criteria, meaning all the evidence that the Heritage Foundation had provided around Harry admitting his drug use in public was not good enough. What gives me the indication that the government is protecting and covering up for Harry is the fact that if the Heritage Foundation was not able to satisfy any of those criteria, as they say right there, then there was no need to issue this Glomar cover your ass loophole statement. The legal document then goes in to say all components appropriately refuse to confirm or deny whether they had communications regarding any request for a waiver by Prince Harry because the mere acknowledgement of whether responsive records exist would reveal whether Prince Harry sought a waiver, which in turn would provide insight into Prince Harry's immigration status. All right, so let's play this out for a second. Let's say there was no special privileges, even though we believe that there are, and there was no waiver given to Harry to get into this country. If the government came back and said that there were no waivers that were given to Prince Harry, would that confirm to any of you what his visa status is in the United States? No, it doesn't. It doesn't give away any personally identifiable information. It doesn't give his status, whether he has a visa that is short-term or if it's a long-term residency thing. And continuing on playing this devil's advocate, we would be safe to assume that Harry followed the rules, filled out the application properly, and the Department of Homeland Security did their job. But when they say because the mere acknowledgement of whether responsive records exist would reveal whether Prince Harry sought a waiver, which in turn would provide insight into Prince Harry's immigration status, we can flip that and say the mere non-acknowledgement, by not acknowledging whether or not he submitted a waiver, does indicate to me that they are hiding something. And it's reasonable to assume that Harry did submit for a waiver and other benefits and privileges that they don't want to disclose, hence the reason why they issued this GLOMAR. And what they say next is so stupid. They go, although CBP acknowledged that it possesses Prince Harry's entry and exit records in the TECS system, CBP and the Biometric Identity Office will not confirm or deny whether they have records about Prince Harry in any of the other databases plaintiffs identified in Part 2 of their requests. Now, there is a little number in the corner there, number 5, footnote. In order to backpedal releasing the fact that they had entry information, they say, CBP acknowledged that IS has entry and exit records pertaining to Prince Harry because it is widely known that Prince Harry has traveled to and from the United States, and thus admitting that records of his entry and exit would not invade his privacy interests. Oh, well, that's rich. Love it how they use at their convenience when information that's publicly and widely known to be applied to this. But of course, all the references to the drug use in the public, as well on a global scale in the book Spare, is not admissible because it does not meet the public interest. But knowing when Harry goes back and forth to the UK, obviously that's something of important information that's out there that we all know, and they acknowledge that. Hence the reason why they're okay with sharing that Harry was exiting and entering the United States. Do you see how this works? These people are nothing but clowns, man. Clowns. So after this group of clowns state this, they go into saying that the requester, aka the Heritage Foundation, must both show that 1, the public interest to be advanced is a significant one, that is, more specific than having the information for its own sake, and 2, that the information sought is likely to advance that interest. Then it continues on to say that plaintiffs have not articulated a public interest in these records that is significant enough to overcome Prince Harry's interest in keeping his immigration information private. So what do they want? Do they want signatures on a petition asking for this from the public? I mean, they really need to specify what will qualify as public interest. Or is it the fact that they're relying on the media to dictate that? Let's be real here. The whole reason why we're seeing this happen is because we know that the rules for Prince Harry most likely were not applied, as if, let's say, a regular, ordinary person came in. And for that is why this is being called out and spotlighted. Not only do we have a corrupt system in place, it's the fact that people like Prince Harry get a pass. You could argue if there was nothing to hide and there was no blowback that was going to fall onto the administration, they would have released this information. But the mere fact that they have been dragging their feet and issuing these BS excuses as to why Prince Harry's privacy needs to be protected just shows me that there is some type of cover-up. Now, I think part of this pushback is also the small chance that they could get sued in violating these immigration laws by releasing this information. The royal family suing the United States government could be a battle that also affects, believe it or not, UK-US relations. Now, if that should be the case, then you know that Prince Harry is well protected. Obviously, we all know that he is, but it's just another thing to hone in on the fact that he's not just like you and I, solidifying that the law doesn't actually apply to these kind of people. Now, going back to what I said earlier, why can't the government just redact some of the information that is personally identifiable and give them the answer that they're looking for, which is, did Prince Harry lie on his application? Yes or no? And, here they cover the fact that Department of Homeland Security doesn't think that there's any information that they could separate in order to release to the public or to the Heritage Foundation by saying under FOIA, if a record contains information exempt from disclosure, any reasonably segregable, non-exempt information must be disclosed after redaction of the exempt information. Non-exempt portions of records need not be disclosed if they are inextricably intertwined with the exempt portions, right? So they're going to say, well, we can't release this information to you, even though it's answering the question that you're asking all along. It is somehow tied to other information that is invasion of privacy, which we know is bullshit. Then it goes into saying agencies are entitled to a presumption that they complied with the obligation to disclose reasonably segregable material, which is a lie. This is really what it boils down to. They don't want to give this information, and they are hiding something. By giving all these justifications just shows how guilty they are of protecting Prince Harry, which leads me to believe that, yes, he lied on his application, and you know what? He's getting special privileges that regular folk like you and I, not shockingly, are getting. People really need to seriously think about 2024 and what that means to continue on with the shit show that we have in place. I mean, the message is clear. If you're not rich and a part of the elite in this country, then you don't matter. And it's evident as to what they are doing to the people of this country, especially in what we've seen happen in Maui. Look, I know a lot of you are going to say that nothing is going to happen to Prince Harry, which I would have to agree. I don't think anything is going to happen. However, for us Americans, we do have hope in 2024 something can change. I know that Prince Harry's visa situation is so minuscule compared to all the problems that are going on in this country, but understand that shavings of these little things make a big fat pile. We have been witnessing that our own government doesn't want to help and take care of its own people, not only by securing our safety here in the United States, but also sending our money elsewhere that should be applied to helping America, and it's not. And they sure as hell do not want you talking about it. So just to let you know, a little bit update on the video that I did about the SPARE Act, that was demonetized. Yes. So obviously censorship is real, and they really don't want you to see the corruption that's going on in the rest of the world and what these people are doing. I ask you to please share and please like so this can reach a bigger audience. I'm sure that this too will be demonetized, but I think it's important that you get to see it from the source so you can make up your own mind. It'd be interesting to see what the Heritage comes back with in response to this. So I will be on the lookout in October to bring you the update. But what do you guys think? Do you think that there is a blatant bias to protect Harry? Do you think something fishy is going on? Let me know your thoughts below. And as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
It was such a fraud.